it causes inflammation. And that's not good for you either. So they think that some of these chronic diseases are kind of a domino effect from that. I have a link on here to a really interesting YouTube video of a lady that does a lot of research with an institute that does a lot of research with the gut microbiome, and I found it really interesting. And I'm going to give you that link, so you might want to watch her talk. I think it's one of the things she was advising was, don't be too clean. You know, you really need to expose yourself to good bacteria. And one way to do that is to have a pet. Because they go indoors and they bring in germs. And she said, Mike's phone's ringing too. It must be our deal to buy insurance or something. So she even said, you know, when you pet your dog and you go in to fix lunch, don't wash your hands. I mean, she said go that far. But she said, go out and garden, you know, get in the bacteria that's in the soil, do outdoor activities. And I remember when we were kids, you know, we played outside all the time. You know, we were exposed to all kinds of stuff. And, you know, little kids, they have their hands in their mouth all the time, so they're getting bacteria from everything, you know, chew on everything. And the gut flora benefit us by collecting energy from the fermentation of digesting carbohydrates and absorbing those chemicals. They also play a role in synthesizing vitamin B and vitamin K, as well as metabolizing bile acids, sterols, and xenobiotics. They produce a range of neuroactive molecules such as acetylcholine, catecholamines, some stuff I can't pronounce, histamine, melatonin, and serotonin. And the other thing serotonin does is help regulate the peristalsis, or the movement of the gut, you know, how fast your stuff moves through you. The other thing, a high fiber diet lets you create more what they call short chain fatty acids your gut bacteria produce, and those calm down your immune system. Whereas simple carbohydrates like sugar are absorbed very quickly. Your biome has very little to do with it. It just, Mike says that it starts absorbing in your mouth. It just goes straight into you. She also talked about probiotics, and she said probiotics don't populate your gut, you know, from yogurt or pills or whatever. They just go through you. Fermented foods are pre-digested, but they don't colonize the gut either. And if you cook them or can them, they die. So they're not active anymore.
So are you saying they have no effect, probiotics?
She said the only way to tell if a probiotic works is if it affects your bowel movement, it's working. But it doesn't stay. In other words, it doesn't colonize. So that's why you have to take it every day. All right. She said there's a USP symbol on probiotics.
There's a what symbol?
USP
Okay.
symbol.
Right,
It's like the housekeeping good seal of approval. And
right,
it means it's been tested by an outside lab, and it really has what it says it has in it.
right.
There's no regulation. There's no FDA regulation, so you really don't know what you're getting,
Right.
or if it's alive, or you know. But if it has that USP symbol on it, you at least know what you're getting. But she said, if it doesn't affect your bowel movement, it's not working. As she said, and be careful of yogurt, because some of them have higher sugar content than soda pop. So,
Yep. I should get plain.
One way to test your probiotic to see if it works or not, or if it's active, is to try to make yogurt with it. Have you ever made yogurt?
Oh,
Put it in some warm milk and let it set. And see if it starts cultivating.
Making the brown liquid.
No, yogurt is pretty white. I don't know what you saw on YouTube. There's some strange things on YouTube. No, yogurt just thickens up milk to a pretty white. You
Right.
know?
We've made it for years.
Yeah, you can use probiotics as a starter.
anyway, just to kind of give a little summary, your gut bacteria help protect us against infection. Because they stimulate the synthesis and secretion of immunoglobulin A, and through the production of a balanced T helper cell response. They produce antimicrobial peptides. And one of the things, one of the reasons it's good to be exposed to good bacteria is that the good bacteria competes with the bad bacteria for food. So they help you keep from being colonized by bad bacteria simply by competing against them for the same resources. The dysregulation of gut flora has been correlated with a host of inflammatory and autoimmune conditions. Arthritis, yeah, is one of them. Anxiety and mood disorders, autoimmune diseases, Parkinson's. It's been associated with Parkinson's because a lot of people with Parkinson's also have problems with their gut. Stomach ulcers, bacteria, right? Intestinal cancer has been linked to it. Liver cancer has been linked to, and even colon cancer, diabetes. And the other thing that is kind of an addendum, and that's skin bacteria. We got bacteria all over our skin. A billion bacteria inhabit a square centimeter of human skin. Can you picture that? So, but like we have Staphylococcus epidermis, which competes against, and it's a good bacteria, but it keeps Staphylococcus aureus under control so we don't get staph infections on our skin. Also women know that the lactobacillus protects us against getting yeast infections. So a lot of this bacteria is provide, and the way lactobacillus works with yeast is it creates an acid environment, and yeast doesn't like acid. So these bacteria that inhabit our skin, and actually, if you think about it, the gut is open too. I mean, this lady, she says, we're just a tube for bacteria to live in. But if they live on the outside of the tube and then go down the center of the tube too. But a lot of that bacteria is competing for the same resources as the bad bacteria. And so in that way, it protects us from the bad bacteria getting a foothold. So I'll send you these notes. They're much more thorough than what I discussed, and you might enjoy watching her video on YouTube too.
Very good.
Very interesting.
The summation is that you're never alone. You have 10 trillion bacteria with you at all times. And your gut brain also is a reservoir for all of the foreign agents that you have been exposed to through eating or having an infection. So your immunity, when your little bitty cells, your immune cells that are floating around looking for a fight, get too overloaded, they can unload some of those templates into your gut brain, and they can retrieve them later if you happen to be exposed to that same bacteria, or virus or whatever. So your gut is equally important in your survival as your brain up here, your noodle up here.
Yep. Very interesting.
And will that help us not get the coronavirus?
You mentioned,
Well, the problem is it's a novel coronavirus, which
Yeah.
means you don't have any
not this.
immunity to it. Well, you might have some because coronaviruses are also colds,
Right.
but you don't have the right immunity to this novel coronavirus.
Right.
You're going to have to suck it up and either learn to survive or die.
Well, I just saw a real interesting post of, let's see, Bill Moore,
Moyer.
no,
Bill
Moore
Meyer.
Bill-
Meyer.
posted that obesity
Moyer.
really puts
I
people,
feel an urge to explain this here.
obesity
What
really
is that?
puts people
This
at
is-
risk.
Phylum husks.
You mentioned fiber a whole bunch of times. This is psyllium husk. You're
Right.
supposed to take 6 of these a day. I take 3 in the morning with breakfast, 3 at noon with lunch. And it really, besides keeping you regular, it works to keep the LDL, the bad cholesterol, cleaned out to a degree. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Yep.
And we take a lot of supplements, handfuls.
Well, you know, we're better off if we can get it from our food.
Right. And we don't eat much meat. But this is a Puritan Pride product, which we found is very, very quality and competitive.
But what about your vegetables? How many
Yeah.
vegetables are filling up your plate? I
We-
mean, this is a challenge for me because I'm borderline diabetic. You would never guess it to look at me, but it runs in my family. So I need to put more vegetables on my
Right.
plate. And I didn't realize it would calm down my nerves and my immune system. Well, it would calm down the tendency for diabetes, and that's an immune problem.
The thing is, though, you have to put the lower carbohydrate vegetables in. If you eat the high carbohydrate vegetables,
Oh, there's a whole way to eat. Yeah, there's a whole way to eat, but green vegetables, cooked fibrous vegetables, yeah.
How do you tell the difference between the low carbohydrate vegetables and the other?
You look it up in a book because it's not real
Yeah.
obvious.
Not in
You know,
Those are high
whatever you want, you
Green
can
beans are
eat
low
green
carbohydrate.
beans you want, but you can't eat corn and
rice.
Potato.
potatoes. And,
By the way, we just ate corn last night, and I swear it's the sweetest corn I've ever tasted. And I'm from
did you
Nebraska, the
say?
corn state.
Yeah. a lot of
Yeah.
sugar.
It was delicious.
when I was on high prednisone a couple of years ago, I went to the Rappel House over at the hospital. They have advice on diabetes,
Right.
and they had a wonderful book, and it lists all the foods and by groups, and it has a nice index in the back so you can look up cabbage if you want to. And I was really surprised at what had high and low carbohydrates, because it's not, it's not intuitive what does and what doesn't.
Where'd you see that, Linda? The book?
It's over at the Rappel House at the hospital, across the street in the parking lot, across the parking lot. There's the house for aging and the house for cancer and so on. Well, the Rappel House is the diabetes house, and they have all kinds of literature over there. And one of them was a little book, and it listed all but you can look online, just, look up carbohydrates plus vegetables and count. Or just food. I mean, I found out that milk has carbohydrates in it, which I wouldn't, I didn't know milk has carbohydrates in it. Meat and eggs and things like that don't have carbohydrates in them.
I know who's cracked the code on a healthy diet.
Yeah. Tell us about bright line eating.
Yeah, there's this woman, Susan Pierce Thompson, who's a cognitive brain scientist, and she wrote a book on the science of losing weight, and she's got thousands of people losing weight and keeping it off. I lost 88 pounds in 9 months, and I weigh 130, and I've kept it off for a year.
Wow, congratulations.
Good for you.
It has 4 bright lines that you don't cross. There's no eating sugar, no flour, there's no snacking. You just eat 2 meals a day, and you weigh or measure your foods. And you eat a lot of vegetables and fruits.
Is this the Jean person?
Yeah.
Well, she's so small, I can't even see her.
You can look her up, on
Do I have to
Facebook
click on
under
something?
Bright Line Eating. You type in Bright Line Eating, and when you get to the page, push Learn More. And she treats overeating as an addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction to flour and sugar.
Well, if you eat,
When you cut it out, you stop craving it, and vegetables and fruits start tasting really good. You get your taste buds back. When you stop craving it, she tells you the science of what makes you crave. She's done studies with rats and.
Jim, no lollipops.
if you eat whole grain,
Is there any carbohydrate in here? No?
She's not eating any grains, Linda.
yeah, there's lots of carb and sugar.
You can eat grains, you can eat whole grains, but not flour.
Right.
Oh,
If you grind something into the flour, it becomes a drug. You grind poppy seeds into a fine flour, it becomes a drug, but you don't get high on poppy seeds.
But some people don't realize that if whole wheat bread is not, if it doesn't say 100% whole wheat, it's not whole grain. So you got to say 100% on it.
We don't eat any kind of flour, not rice flour, not any kind of flour that's ground into whole powder. We eat Triscuits because they're whole grain. And there's Mary's Gone crackers are whole grain, and shredded wheat and puffed rice are whole grains. but
But if you,
not any kind of flour, not even whole wheat flour.
if you look on the bag, it'll tell you how many carbohydrates. And you'll find that even under whole grain, whole wheat flour, you can look at 3 or 4 different brands, and one will be 4% and one will be 6% of 1%, or grams, I'm sorry, 4, 6
Still flour.
per slice. So
Look up,
really trying
look
to
up Bright
watch.
Line Eating.
You have to look at the ingredients.
Look up
Jean,
Bright Line Eating
Jean,
on Facebook.
Jean, maybe you can find a link that is most informative and send it to me, and I'll send it to the others.
Okay,
Okay, we can share it.
there's also a book called Bright Line Eating.
Yeah. So
by
no, it's
Susan Pierce
really
Thompson.
great for her. I've seen her struggling with her weight for years. It's really wonderful for her, but you know, we are all different and different things work for different people.
Hey, Jean, do you do anything with flaxseed or quinoa?
No, I use, for grain, I eat sweet potatoes and rice.
Oh, okay.
She's what?
In the
Sweet
China
potato
study,
rice with a
they,
carbohydrate.
They have to be
they
brown.
studied people,
Complex carbohydrates, not simple ones. Mhm.
in the China study, they studied people in 5 different groups that lived to be 100 years old. There were some Asian group and Seventh-day Adventists, because they're vegetarians, and Mediterraneans, and there was one group that eat 70% of their diet is sweet potatoes. And when they say hello,
That's where I draw the line.
what?
That's where I draw the line. No sweet potatoes.
God, he's,
I love them. John does not.
I don't know, he's even,
Fine,
Like
Jean,
regular
please
potato.
say fine.
These are populations that live to be over 100. They studied them.
Oh,
so,
I eat
so,
sweet potatoes
so,
3 times a day.
so if your bread says 100% whole wheat, is that flour or not flour in there?
Well,
It's flour.
whole
I don't
grain,
need it.
whole
That's
grain.
flour. So bread, no bread, that's flour. So how do you get the whole wheat if it's not in, it can't be ground up, I guess, right? Is that what you're saying?
That's
Can't
why
be ground up. You can eat
take the wheat germ out of
breaded
it.
wheat. Breaded. It's not ground into flour, so you can eat that.
Well, you might as well just go out in the field with the cows and eat it right off the stalk.
To make,
We can do that.
to make
You can do that.
know, horses do that.
To make white flour, they take the wheat germ out of it, which is where all the nutrients are.
Yeah.
And whole wheat has that wheat germ in it. And the reason,
Even ground up wheat germ flour is flour. It's the drug. It absorbs
I guess
too
they
fast.
grind it up and something happens to it, huh?
no, it's still in there. White flour, they take the wheat germ out of the wheat before they grind it up. So you don't get any of the nutritious part of the wheat, all right?
When they
Whole
take
wheat
whole wheat flour with the
in
wheat
it.
germ in it, grind it up and make it into flour, it becomes like a drug.
I see. So Linda, you're talking about this gut. Can you describe physically, what does the gut look like? Or what?
It's a tube.
It's a
Big
tube?
long worm.
It's a tube that can wiggle.
Is that like the intestine or is that different?
That's your
Yeah.
intestine, yes.
It's the intestine, the part of the small intestine.
But most of the gut bacteria is in the large intestine. There's some in the small intestine, but most of it's in the large intestine.
Okay. Thank you.
Your pancreas excretes a lot of alkaline juice into the gut, so you don't kill your biome down lower than that. So at the duodenum, right below your stomach, when your stomach is pushing out food, it's highly acidic because that's what the stomach does. And the bile and the chyle from the pancreas neutralize all of that, so you don't kill your own biome as it goes through. and it works on the food that requires a more alkaline or neutral solution. So you keep your biome alive, and they use enzymes and so forth rather than
Very
brute
smart.
power of acid.
They all are.
That's why I keep him in the
That's
family.
how important your biome is, though. You got special organs that take care of it. Make sure you don't kill it.
Now listen, one thing we haven't brought up are digestive aids. If I didn't take digestive aids, including betaine hydrochloric acid, hydrochloride, I couldn't digest my food. I have to take a certain amount of enzymes, digestive enzymes, and acid in order to digest my food.
Mike takes acid reducer because he has too much acid. And
Some people are achlorhydric. They don't produce very much acid or hardly any at all. And those are the people that are subject to B12 deficiencies.
Yeah, B12 shots, that's me.
There you go.
And it's not an iron deficiency either. It seems to be pernicious. I mean, I can't get it in my diet. I have to get the shots
Get the shots.
every 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So that lines up with my lack of stomach acid. That's what you're saying, I guess.
This is very down to earth stuff. Here, it seems like we were talking about all this spirituality and ether, and now we're just on the opposite side. You know, now we're right down to where the rubber meets the road here.
Well, let's
We've been speaking from the gut today.
Yeah, right, exactly.
share something else. Speaking of the spiritual, so I looked up on Google. I had a problem. I thought, well, maybe there's a solution. And the solution was that I do some particular yoga positions.
Yay!
So I started doing these yoga poses to help a abdominal hernia, mild hernia. And next thing, so I'm meditating a little with this yoga, getting spiritual, but next thing you know, my bowels are working better.
Mm-hmm.
Like a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it may have,
Just a few minutes of these exercises. I can't believe it, but it's true.
no,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to get spiritual every day.
it's calming the brain calms the gut.
Well, plus I'm working on certain muscles in my gut that are calming the gut so it can do its job, I guess.
Yep.
Priscilla, you got to be careful with that though, because one of the side effects is that it might just induce you to breaking out in song.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think back to, unfortunately, to Mike's sister who was under an extreme amount of stress, lived with extreme amount of stress, and she had all kinds of problems with her gut. And even on her last day, she thought she was having gut problems, and instead she was having a heart attack and didn't know it. And ended up dying in the doctor's office because she'd gone there because she thought she had a problem with her gut. So it's all tied together. I mean, when stress in your gut and your brain, and
Yep.
it really is. And when one or the other, they just feed back on each other. And stress can be the source of all, the beginning of all of it, including immune system. She would get a yeast infection in her mouth. She had all kinds of problems, and I know stress was probably the cause of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is a killer.
Well, we could talk on and on, I can see, on this subject, but maybe we should start wrapping it up and talking about what are we going to do next Wednesday? I could
You
talk.
can,
I could
one
talk
more
about-
thing.
Yes,
You can look up Bright Line Eating on Google. You don't have to be on Facebook.
okay.
Can you repeat what that is?
Bright Line Eating.
Right line eating.
Can you type it up in the chat? Can somebody type it up in the,
Yeah.
that'd be, just so we make, get the spelling right. It should appear right up there.
I don't see
You're-
it.
I'll send you out my notes too. I'll send out those.
I don't see a chat screen. Where's the chat screen?
I've got it.
Click on the chat window,
at the
I'm doing
bottom.
it.
the button at the bottom.
There you go. Here you go. Bright Line Eating. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Susan Pierce Thompson. Okay.
I'll write it down.
Google Susan Pierce Thompson. Okay.
Okay, here it is.
Well, that works pretty well. Boy, we are getting good.
Oh, I'll tell you, if I can figure out how to share these screens.
So do we want to move to a paranormal topic next week? I have this book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, talking about a fellow that died, and then he started coming back to his sister, who had a meditation practice. She was seriously meditating, and next thing you know, he started coming to her, telling stories about what it's like to be dead and how wonderful it is.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, the closer I get, the more interesting.
Oh, God, what an optimist. There.
well, I'll put this together. If someone comes up with another idea between now and then, speak up. Or so I'll tentatively plan on that. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting.
I told my Aunt Emma, good intentions are the highway to hell. And she said, yeah, so are they. They're also the highway to heaven.
Huh.
Supposed to fly nowadays.
Patriotic.
Let's see. Okay, well, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. We're 15 minutes over, but that's normal for us. Shall we join hands? Shall we join hands and say our closing prayer? Okay. one,
Yeah.
two. As we go
We
out,
go
Wow.
out upon
On our separate
Separate
ways,
ways.
may we
May
find
we find that
That
happiness
Yes.
Happiness.
which
Unsought.
as a
great benediction
to
to
those
those
who
who
strive
strive
to live their
live their lives
in
in unselfish devotion,
Write that
that
down.
Which is
good,
good,
good.
Noble.
and
noble,
noble,
And true.
and true.
A little like that.
Okay.
okay.
All right.
You
Yay.
guys rock.
Aye.
care of my sister, making her days a little brighter.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Hi,
coming,
Jeannie.
Mister.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Good to see you all.
Bye.